Hello everyone, it's me, FelNE, and today we'll talk about the Glyph summoning Behemoth Alyra in this week's Behemoth Breakdown. To start, this Behemoth can be found in many non-Umbral escalations or at Paradox Breaks, where the Chronivore used to reside. At Paradox Breaks, you're gonna need to spend 4 Chronostones to start the Paradoxicon event. This event is the same event where you'll need to slay 2 Behemoths before Alyra appears. Alyra, like any Behemoth, has 2 states, one Aether Charged and one Enraged state. Entering its Enraged state, not only will there be an increase in aggressiveness, but Glyphs will also spawn around the Behemoth. While these markings only spawn right after it enters this state, its Aether Charged state, however, allows Alyra to summon these Glyphs whenever it feels the need to add more of these markings. Each Glyph is colored like the element it represents, and if a player steps on these Glyphs, they'll be affected by that element's debuff. Luckily, not all Glyphs are bad. If you find this pinkish colored Glyph, you'll be granted multiple buffs to your Slayer for a short time. Another thing you need to be careful of is Alyra is able to absorb different types of elements it runs over, which will modify some of the attacks this Behemoth has. Speaking of attacks, Alyra will curl then swing its tail, hitting those nearby. It's also able to use this move back to back. If the Behemoth has the Shock Glyph, this move will inflict the Shock debuff. Bringing a wing up, the Behemoth will quickly swipe at the player. This move does have a lot of range, so there is a good chance you're going to need to dodge this attack unless you're up very close. Raising both wings up, Alyra will clap both wings together that will cause a radiant explosion. When this Behemoth has a Terraglyph, a Rock Spire will appear instead. Similar to Lightbound Koshai, the Behemoth will slam the ground and teleport in most cases to a Glyph and absorb it. It's pretty simple to avoid, and if there is a limited number of Glyphs on the ground, you can possibly even predict where the Behemoth might appear. Lowering its body, then leaping forward, Alyra will spin across the ground like a top. This attack covers a ton of ground and can be tricky to avoid depending on your situation. An easy way I've found to avoid this attack is by dodging where the Behemoth lands and begins its spin. You'll also want to be aware and careful when the Behemoth has a Shock or Terraglyph, since this move will be much harder to come out unscathed if you dodge straight through the Behemoth. Releasing a Radiant Beam, the Behemoth will slowly sweep with the beam horizontally, hitting those not able to dodge. If Alyra has a Frost or Flame Glyph, it can use either Urska's Breath or Embermane's Fire Breath instead. When Aether Charged, Alyra can fire Radiant Orbs that can home in on the player. At first, they may seem easy to avoid, but you'll quickly start to realize these orbs can loop back and hit you from behind. If you're hit, you'll be encased in a Radiant Dome. Good luck, and always keep an eye out for these orbs when they are present. Slightly backing up, then launching itself forward, the Behemoth will fly towards the player. This becomes even deadlier when the Shock Glyph is absorbed, which releases a trail of shock explosions in its path, just like Malkarion. Fortunately, this move is interruptible, allowing you to get a few hits in before it starts moving once again. Lifting up its head, the Behemoth will spit out an element that will rain down on the player. Once it hits the ground, and depending on the type of Glyph it has, it can be burning flames, poison pools, frost that slows, or a radiant object that buffs the player. One other thing you'll notice and want to be careful of is the wing sweep that follows shortly after it releases one of these elements. Alright, hopefully this should be enough information to aid you in your hunt against Alyra. Thank you everyone for watching, take care, and I hope to see you next time.